evening, everyone. I'm opening this March 9th Grafton School Committee meeting at 7 p.m. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, GLC 3818, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people gathering in one place, this meeting of the Grafton School Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. This meeting is being recorded and it will be available on Grafton Cable as well as the town community YouTube channel. We need to take attendance and announce all the committees and committee members and school officials on the call, and we will need to take a roll call vote for all votes. So I'll do roll call to make sure everybody can hear me and I can hear them. Laura Austin, chair here. Jennifer Conley.
Jennifer Connolly here.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr here.
Liz Spinney.
Here.
Rahul Rati.
Rahul Rati here.
Our student members, James Dewar.
James Dewar here.
Annabelle Weber.
Annabelle Weber here.
And our school officials, we have our superintendent, Dr. Cummings.
Nick Cummings here.
Assistant Superintendent Tracy Kalo.
Tracy Kalo here.
Our other Assistant Superintendent, Kristen Gasper.
Kristen Gasper here.
Director of Finance, Anita Patel.
Here.
And we have our Kristen Perrone.
Kristen
I'm not sure of your official title this year, Kristen.
Remote Learning Academy Coordinator.
Kristen Perrone Extraordinaire, Remote Learning Academy Coordinator. Welcome, everybody. I can see we have many people coming tonight. Welcome. So I'm going to set a little bit of the rules. Just a reminder. So this is our meeting to discuss. We have a big agenda tonight. I know a lot is going on. Things just kind of broke earlier in the day. We may not have all the answers that we're looking for. We have other things on the agenda that we're going to discuss besides getting students back into the building. We will take questions, but we're going to only take one question per person at a time. We're not going to be reading any comments. And Amy Moore, our secretary, is going to monitor the questions. She's been doing a fabulous job of this all year. And she'll read them after we all have a chance to ask our questions. Please do not use the raise your hand function. We don't work that way in this meeting. Also, just a reminder, so this is a public meeting, but it's not a meeting with the public. If we see a lot of questions, I know that there's Zoom meetings set up with the elementary schools. I'm thinking that is going to happen with the middle and high schools as things begin to roll out more. There's always opportunity to answer your questions. You can always email all of us, and we have our Facebook page, which we're doing our best to answer questions as we know answers, but there may be some answers we just don't know yet tonight. And I think we've done a pretty good job. Actually, I think we've done an amazing job this year of answering questions as we can, and we will certainly continue that. We want to be as transparent as possible, but know that, we just got news at 2 o'clock today, and in 5 hours, we unfortunately do not have everything figured out yet, but we're working on it. So with that said, I am going to turn it over to Kristen Perrone, and she's going to share just some information about what's been going on with our Remote Learning Academy this year. So Kristen, welcome, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Laura. Let me just share my screen. Are you guys able to see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, awesome. So, send mode. Okay, so I'm really happy to be here to share information about the RLA. As we know, this has been a year unlike any others with lots of challenges, but lots of opportunities for growth. And so I'm excited to share some of the great work that we have been doing in the RLA. There are many things that I could share, but in order to be succinct, and I know you have a lot to discuss tonight, I'm trying to focus on just these things, just how we prepared the ways we continue to communicate so that everybody's on the same page, lots of great collaboration opportunities, and how that impacted our students here in the RLA. So first up, the preparation. You might have seen some of this in the beginning of the year. We did a lot of legwork behind the scenes to get ready for this year for all the different ways that we were learning. Some of these things might look familiar. We prepared videos for parents and teachers to sort of give the overview about what the Remote Learning Academy would look like. We created lots of how-to quick videos for parents and teachers, especially in the beginning about Google Classroom, so they would know how to navigate that very important app where we're going to house everything. And also we created self-paced PD opportunities where all of these things that we're sharing in the beginning of the year quite a bit in one place, so the teachers could go and look at that at their own leisure and learn at their own pace. So that we could all be on the same page, especially about the priority apps that we selected as we prepared for the year. As I discussed, we already mentioned Google Classroom. We also had quite a few Google products that we used, and we wanted to make sure that all teachers were familiar with and felt comfortable using things like Google Meet for their synchronous lessons when they're with the students, the Jamboard, which is where they can pull up a whiteboard and interact with the students and let the kids really move pieces and have interactive lessons, and Google Slides, which is really sort of the backbone. I'll show you that next about how we sort of structured the day in the RLA. We also had some very important priority apps for our asynchronous learning. We had Loom, which is a way that teachers would sort of screen capture and create videos that kids could watch when they were not with the teacher, but still have their teacher voice in that important lesson right there. Seesaw, which is a app that we use to, we have thousands of standards-based activities at our fingertips that we can share with the students. And we used Seesaw for that. I'll share a little bit more about all of these as we go forward. Google Forms, a lot of teachers use these to use self-grading quizzes with automatic feedback, and then Flipgrid, which is a video creation app that helps create a sense of community. Even though the kids aren't together in school, they actually can be together in their Flipgrid meets. So let's go on and tell you a few more bits about these priority apps. Excuse me. During synchronous lessons, basically Google Meet is what we use. Some teachers still had that opportunity and they would use Zoom, but for the most part, everybody switched over to Google Meet, where they would have their meetings. The slide decks, that is really, like I said, the backbone, was the first training that we did. So all teachers knew how to build that slide deck so that they could sort of keep that structure of the day going. Before this year, when you would see a teacher showing the structure of the day in the classroom, it might be an agenda, or it might be a pocket chart with the parts of the day, or it might be I can statements. So it sort of mimics that, and all the links are there and available and ready so that the day can go on sort of in a predictable way, but making sure you're touching on all the things. So I'm going to show you a quick example. It's a little quick video, less than a minute, of what the kindergarten slide deck looked like. Now, keeping in mind, everybody sort of had that jumping off point, but they made their own. This is what the first grade slide deck looked like, third grade a little bit more grown up, but it's all sort of the same mentality. So let's just watch this real quick.
Here's an example of the kindergarten slide deck. It starts every day with the same structure, morning meeting, and then they go right to their Flipgrid question of the day before foundations. I just want to point out a couple quick things. The teacher here, because it's kindergarten, has added audio directions. So if a student opens a slide deck, it's time for morning meeting. If they're not sure what to do, they click here.
Click on my Bitmoji to enter our chat.
So this teacher gives a little extra direction by adding that audio component. The other thing I wanted to mention here is this teacher's building in some independence here, because there are lots of rotations throughout the day, throughout this slide. So the kids click on here.
Click on the clock to start your timer.
and then they click there and there's a countdown timer. So every 15 minutes, the alarm will go off and they go on to their next activity. And they know that there's a link there for the next activity. They set the timer again and go to the next one. So this really builds a predictable structure, but also lots of independence, even at the kindergarten level.
Okay. So those are two of our priority apps that are used daily in all the grade levels during synchronous lessons. Just going to highlight a couple here. During asynchronous lessons, we use Loom, where the teachers can create video lessons. I'm going to show you one with Kathy Perch, just like 30 seconds, just so you have a sense of how interactive, how engaging, and how much it's sort of like having Mrs. Perch in two places at once. If she's teaching a guided reading lesson, small group lesson, other students might be watching this through Google Classroom, and Mrs. Perch seemingly is there too.
Hey, boys and girls, we are back. Woo! Echo is so happy to be here, and so am I. We're going to be learning a brand new syllable. It's called the open syllable. What? And we have new sound cards. Yes! So let's get started. Okay, here we go. We have our new sound cards, which are open syllables. A, acorn, A. A, acorn, A. E, me, E. E, me, E. I, hi, I.
So you can see there, just like when Mrs. Perch is in the classroom, she has the baby echo or mama echo, says the letter, and then echoes back. And you can imagine this was a ton of work for Mrs. Perch to put through. This is just one example. Lots of teachers created these videos, but Mrs. Perch was telling me in our last discussion that we had that she's going to be able to take all of this work and use it next year. For example, if a student needed reteaching for foundations, she could send one of these videos home through Google Classroom for homework for a student to rewatch or something like that. So even though this was a tremendous amount of work, it will live on and will benefit students for years to come, I believe. Another app that we use for asynchronous learning is Seesaw. I'm just going to quickly show you what that looks like so you have a sense of what it looks like, and I'll show you one activity. We have thousands of activities that are standards-based from Seesaw, and we also have a school library. We've created 121 activities, including assessments. I'm just going to show you this real quick so you know what it is.
As I mentioned, Seesaw is one of our priority apps. You can see here in the Seesaw library, there are community library. There are so many thousands and thousands of activities for teachers to pull from. But because we have Seesaw for schools K-1, we also have a school library where all of these activities were created by Grafton teachers for purposes that match what we're doing in our classes. So it's really kind of nice to be able to work together and collaborate and create these types of activities. We have teacher read-alouds, such as this one is with Loom. The kids listen to the story and then they follow through and use a microphone to show their thinking. So the teachers actually have to use this activity as an assessment. And this is just one way that we're using Seesaw in the RLA.
Okay, so you can see just by using these foundational apps that we're really making sure that our students have meaningful work to do. And I'm really happy with the work that we've done with these priority apps. The last one that I'll show you is Flipgrid. Flipgrid is being used from K-5. And people use it for different purposes, but really what it does is it helps the students feel like they're part of a community while they're at home. So if you see a Flipgrid group, you see all of the kids, you can watch each other's videos, you can comment with video comments, and it really helps the teacher to get to know the students individually. I'm going to show you an example from Mrs. Powers Kindergarten. You can see here, she's had 2,186 interactions on Flipgrid with her kindergartners this year. They have become experts at using this app. So this is the example from her class that I want to show you. This is an assessment, a rhyming assessment. In normal years before this year, before we had an RLA, when it's time to do the rhyming assessment, the students just called over to the table and are asked to give a rhyming word for 4 different words, and then they go back and do their daily 5. But here, Mrs. Powers put the 4 words onto Flipgrid, and this is what this student came up with. And many students did something similar where they put emojis that matched the words. And if you listen, you'll see that she is showing great, amazing presentation skills, technology skills, and this is also an assessment.
Today, I'm gonna do some rhyming words with bear, dog, tree, and snow. So, the first one I'm gonna rhyme with is gonna be bear. Bear. What's the rhyming word? If you guessed chair, I was guessing the same thing. Chair. Now let's rhyme with dog. Dog. If you're guessing log, just like I was, that's just awesome that you did the same word that I did. Now let's go to tree. Tree. If you guessed bee, that was what I was guessing too. Now let's rhyme something with snow. The cold snow. Snow. If you guessed the blow, that's what I guessed too. And those are the rhyming words that I did today. And bye.
So you can see there that student is so familiar with using this technology. She was there and stopped the camera on her own. So I'm really happy to see the great technology skills and presentation skills, and the fact that she's almost like a teacher. That means that she really knows it. So it's a great assessment too. The next section is just to quickly talk a little bit about all the different types of communication that we had to make sure we had a cohesive whole. We had parent and teacher newsletters and surveys. We had the training videos like we already talked about. We had Google Forms ready for teachers or parents to ask questions or to request information or help or collaboration opportunities. And we had weekly meetings with the sister schools, with the principals, and also weekly meetings with Tracy Kalo to make sure that everybody was on the same page and doing great things in the RLA. So here's just an example of what our teacher newsletter looked like. We would just sort of highlight what was happening. There's always that opportunity to ask questions or to request collaborations. Also lots of little videos and things. Similarly, the parent newsletter looked the same. There's an opportunity to ask questions. And we also had a survey, and we responded to that survey by offering parent tips and articles and things in our newsletter. So that's a bit about that. And this is my little comedy moment so that we can I just want to nod to the fact that I tend to look at, the glass half full all the time and focusing on all the wonderful positive things. But obviously with technology, there can always be challenges, and, things can go wrong, as they could even tonight. Hopefully not, but this is just a nod to that sometimes it's not always roses, but so many good things. I'm just going to continue on sharing those. So collaboration. This is really, to me, sort of like one of the best thing that's come out of this year, and especially in the RLA, because the North-South sister schools have shared things. They've always shared and gotten together, for different reasons. But this year we shared students, we shared teachers, we shared mentorships across the sister schools, and we shared Google Classroom resources. We had weekly meetings. And I really feel like that's one of the great things that came out of having this, the RLA this year, is all the wonderful opportunities for collaboration. Here's a couple examples of some collaborations. This is a K, this might be the first grade one, but we have a similar one for kindergarten, where the regular ed teachers and sped teachers are the IAs and RLAs work together for different purposes. This one wasn't with IAs, this one over here was. So after the dibbles, we created slide decks to focus on the different foundational areas and had a predictable structure for that intervention, along with progress monitoring. This is an example I'll just show you real quick so you can see what a Jamboard is and how kids can move it around. So The IA would use this intervention when the student is not with the teacher or the SPED teacher. It's a time when they would have been alone and independent. So we create as teachers this for her to do with her students.
Here's an example of an intervention deck. You can see here that there are some embedded Jamboards that the teacher can use with the students in order to be able to have a more interactive lesson with them. This one's already been done, but normally these sticky notes are down here and the student is able to move them according to the target skill. The other thing that we often do is we embed videos to reteach the lesson that the students can listen to there with the IA. And we also have sort of games that they can play on a Jamboard so that they can move the pieces. The teacher will decide, which sentence they'll read, and if they get it correctly, then they move their game piece to that matching color. So that's sort of a more interactive, fun way to practice the skills. They also read books, and the books are linked right here, and we create pre-reading questions and some comprehension questions and opportunities for practicing your reading fluency. So this is all done with an IA during independent time.
Okay, so that's a good example of some collaborative work that we've done. Here's another one. I just have a couple more to share. This is a grade 3 collaboration. 3rd grade had already worked with Miss Raina and her team over the years to create 32 word work type lessons. And what we did with this is we put them all into seesaw activities. So we would relink a reteaching of a video, and then we would have drag and drop opportunities and markups and things like that. And we also had Jamboards that are related. So lots of good collaboration there. And similarly, as I was talking about with Mrs. Perch's Foundations videos, this will be able to be used next year or for years to come. So even though it was a big project, it will be useful for years to come. Another great collaboration, 4th grade, through the 2 sister schools, Mrs. Fontaine, Miss Bowen. They did a lot of using automatic grading and automatic feedback in Google Forms. And so the student gets that immediate feedback, and then the teacher gets reports about how the class did. Mrs. Fontaine was saying this is something that she looks forward to using for years to come because it quickly and efficiently tells her, if she used it for math, where was the difficulty, and she can reteach that the next day using that data from the Google Form quizzes. That leads us to the last part of the presentation, which is how all of these pieces, the planning, communication, and collaboration comes together in our classrooms. So this is an example of a 3rd grade example where this was great because Mrs. Renaud and Mrs. Kohlberg students all were together in this flip grid so they could all see each other's, and it was really cute. So here we had Bitmoji Classroom with Mr. DeMeo. You might not know who he is, but he's a really great teacher that makes modern songs to help kids learn their multiplication facts. And after that, excuse me, the kids go to Flipgrid and create their own songs. They can watch them, they can comment on them, and they were making lots of great connections. And I'll just show you a quick example of how kids in the RLA were being very creative and using music to learn their multiplication facts.
Every day I'm dashing and I'm searching through my mind, through my mind, through my mind. 'Cause I know all the hard numbers just got to go. I'll make them easy. 'Cause 9 times 7, 63, and 9 times 8, 72, and 9 times 9 is 81. 9 times 10 is 90.
So that's great. And quite a singer there. And I noticed too, when I go back and I look, that some kids have continued to go back to this activity over the course of like a month and a half. They just enjoy it so much, and they continue to learn their multiplication facts through Mr. DeMeo's raps. So that is a great collaboration there. Another one, the next one is the 4th grade team really talked about how much their kids loved hands-on work. So we worked together and we found science experiments to support their extreme weather unit that they were learning. And then we had the kids choose which one they wanted, and they made a video and then shared it on Flipgrid. So I have a quick couple examples to show you. This one, you can see this. Actually, I think I noticed when I looked at this earlier, this student video I had paired up just so you'd see a bit of it. So I think that, let me see if I place it in the right
Then
spot.
I add some Alka-Seltzer
Oh yeah, this is the right spot.
tablets.
So you can see this great thinking that this student is doing while he's doing this experiment.
And this is now what it's doing. It's going up and down, up and down. So the science behind it is that you can see the water is heavier than the oil.
So that's great. You could see the student talking about what he noticed, and some of the kids too, if their experiment didn't work first, they would try it again. It was very, very much in keeping with some great hands-on learning and presentation skills too. This one here, it's nice to see that it's all in the family. This student had his little brother helping him. So,
Hi guys, today I'm going to be doing the tornado experiment with my science sidekick. Let's get started. Okay, so here's some of the materials. You need a jar with a lid. You need some glitter. Some glitter, yep. Then we need some dish soap, hand sanitizer, and just some water. So we're gonna pour water towards the top. Aiden, open the lid. Aiden's gonna hold it for me, and I'm gonna pour it all the way to like the neck, like the top.
so there are a couple examples from the 4th grade extreme weather unit. You can see that those kids are really learning and sharing their thinking and their great presentation skills. Also book clubs, I should have put grade 2 there too. 2, 3, 4, and 5 did a series of book clubs where students watched videos, learned about the different books, made a choice about which book they wanted to read, and then they got together in small groups in breakout rooms, read the books together, and also completed sort of some work to show that they understood and created their Flipgrids. I won't, in the interest of time, I won't play this one, but this student really shows that she understands, and she shares some vocab before she shares her summary. So it's nice to see the kids almost like having some good teaching skills there too. Some other things that we've done that we have highlighted student interest. This is an example from Mrs. Weskin. She did a genius hour with some kids that maybe need a little bit more of a challenge. Some nice ways of connecting. This is a Miss Marsland and Miss Norton. She's a hybrid teacher, and they had set up a lunch date with, so the kids from RLA and hybrid could go to different breakout rooms and have lunch and recess together. And another thing we did is we had Friday virtual field trips. So even though the kids have been learning from their very own homes, they've had lots of opportunities to travel around the world and learn about lots of different things. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you, and how all the different pieces of planning, communication, and collaboration have come together. These are some of the things that the different teachers in the RLA and the grade level have talked about in our last meeting about what they will carry forward, things that they've learned from this challenging year, when of course they put in so much great work, but these things will carry forward and they will continue to use them in their practice going forward. So here is a list of the amazing teachers of the RLA, and that's all I have for you today. Thank you for inviting me. I enjoyed sharing with you.
Thank you for coming. That was phenomenal. And I will open it up to the committee for questions. Liz.
Thank you so much, Kristen. What you've shown us tonight was really amazing. I'm very impressed. I'm especially excited to see those presentation skills, which that the kids are developing, which I think is so very important. And to see that in a young age, that's great. And I think, and the technology skills too, that I think our students and our teachers are developing this year. And I don't think we should discount this year for the things that the opportunities that they're having that we might not have had time for, or might not have ventured into without this. Not to say it's the ideal situation, but still there are good things too.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. I was curious, you talked about the mixed classrooms with North and South, which I think is great. I was just wondering, was that a concerted effort? Was that intentional to mix North and South, or was it simply a scheduling thing, or?
That is really above my pay grade. I didn't make those decisions. That was sort of something that was decided, through the administration.
I thought maybe you would have known or something.
Sorry.
Well, this would be your question though. I was just wondering, how hard was it to match the curriculum with the hybrid students with that of those who were doing RLA? Was it?
I mean, it wasn't really, I mean, it was a lot of work, but it's not hard. You're really just teaching the same thing in a different way. So, I mean, you're going to take, a lot of times teachers already had maybe a slide deck to teach something specific. So we would just take that as a jumping off point and then create something that, instead of kids just looking at the screen, giving them an opportunity to maybe put that into a Jamboard where they can manipulate things, or just to make it interactive, like you saw some of the experiments, so that they're not just, looking at the slides or things that they've had in the past. Try to mimic and create new opportunities for them to do something more hands-on that looks more like the classroom too.
Yeah, and it's amazing that it's great that they were able to go on field trips and things like that too. My last question is, were there any opportunities that we just couldn't replicate for the RLA program?
I mean, I don't think you can't always replicate, but we're covering the same curriculum in a way that works for the online environment. It's not about replicating the exact same activities. It's just teaching the same content and the same skills and standards and things like that. So it might look slightly different, just like in the normal year. If you walk into one teacher's room and then another's, they're going to be doing things in their own way and putting their own spin on it. I think it's just more of an extension of that.
Sure. And same for specials and things like that too?
Yes. Well, actually, the field trip was special this year because the RLA kids weren't able to go to the library. So we decided, well, let's send them on a field trip every week. So, and I think the hybrid kids also went on the field trip too. So that was sort of a special too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Rahul?
Hi, Kristen. Based on the presentation, it was a wonderful presentation. And based on that, I think personally, RLA should be provided, made a normal way of teaching and should be provided throughout the school year. It's amazing. And the way you presented it, telling about the teachers and the students. But at the same time, did all the teachers and the kids felt pretty much the same? Did they feel at ease, or were there, especially the teachers, did they come across challenges compared to a normal school year? Because it was new, but over the time, how did they feel about it?
I think that, everybody's different. Everybody comes at it at a different level. Some people are already pretty tech savvy. Some people were just learning, but everybody really just jumped in. I think in the beginning of the year, it was a little bit stressful because it took a long time to learn these things and to sort of translate everything. There were many, many very long days and stressful days, but everybody really worked together and really did just an amazing job, outstanding. And all of the different priority apps that I shared with you, and like the backbone, the slide decks, everybody jumped right on board, and they all use it really seamlessly at this point. And I really think that has benefited not only, like I say, their practice in the future, but also the students' ability to add different layers rather than just like a rhyming assessment. They have all these other things that they were doing too. So I think there is a huge benefit, and I'm really proud of the work that everybody did this year so far.
Great. Yeah, perfect.
Amy.
Thank you so much, Kristen. This was really great to really see what the kids are doing on a regular basis. I have older kids, so I'm sorry, my phone's ringing. So my question is, we're into March now. I'm trying to get a sense of how much extra effort this is for the staff, for the teachers and the people that they work with. I assume there's other people helping them. And how far ahead can they get with the content? Do you have a sense of how are they can't be finished for the year, right? They've got to still be working on it.
No, they have their weekly collaborative meetings with their team in the building. They all meet and talk and work together. They're really in step with where the other teachers are. I mean, I had a meeting with a teacher today that she felt she was a little bit like a week behind. She was still working on a poetry unit, but she's RLA. And I said, when the kids come back, there are going to be days and things that happen in the school that don't happen in RLA, and you'll probably be able to catch up. It's really, I think that happens during the school year, like in different classrooms too. So I don't think it's any different. I think they definitely are in step because they all plan together still. Even though they plan with their grade level, they also plan and meet with their RLA component too from the sister school. So yeah, everybody's in at the same spot.
It's really nice to hear that they can see how they can reuse this content moving forward, because I can see the effort that's involved in creating this content. It's got to be gargantuan, and to be able to reuse it. So I hope it's being backed up many times on many servers, and we don't lose all this great effort, because it really is. It's to learn a new technology, to create all of that content in a fairly short amount of time, and then just to have to keep going. It's never ending. I mean, until the school year's over, and then some of it, I guess, if they want to reuse it in the future, they may end up having to tweak it again.
And that happens every year. That happens.
Yeah, I know.
That's the life of the teacher. So
it is. And I wouldn't want teachers to feel like they were stuck in a rut, but at the same time, it's a lot of effort all at once.
It's very true.
So hats off to you and to all the teachers that are putting together this great content. It's fantastic. And to see the students rise to the occasion is so great too. And I know that, we're kind of seeing the best. But it's nice to see that when so much of what we hear is how students are struggling. There are students that do very well with the remote model. Right. And I think it's important to call attention to those kids and those families, and also those teachers that are making it easier for those kids.
Yes.
So I'm so impressed. I'm blown away. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jen.
I have two questions. One is kind of going off Amy. So when students are struggling, how do they go? How do many of the teachers go about helping them? Because it's a different dynamic. Is there, I guess I'm just curious on how it's addressed.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what the struggle is. There are many different struggles. And like I said, I focused on obviously the glass half full and all the great things to share. But of course, there are students that, struggle more in this environment and need more support. And there's a variety of ways that we've done that. Teachers have kept in close contact with their principals and SST. Also just finding different ways to engage the student, reaching out to parents, a variety of ways, lots of emails. Obviously there are kids that struggle, and we've just like in the classroom, it's the same thing really. We've had kids that, I have to go to the bathroom. They're off in the bathroom every day. We find ways to help them. It's the same thing, just in a different place.
I was wondering if the students that have switched from RLA to hybrid or the other model, has there been any issues with the transitions or anything that, I'm assuming with what's coming up, we might have more people. So there are things that we can do to help with that transition.
Yeah, I think that's more of like a principal question. There wasn't a ton of movement. And so I haven't heard anything other than, teachers telling me about maybe one or two new students and how they've caught them up. And because they were, part of hybrid, they know all about slide decks and things like that. So I don't think it's been an issue. I think that people, for the most part, stayed in with where, what they were doing. It hasn't been a big transition.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank you to the teachers. They've been doing amazing. The work you showed is amazing. Like, it's a lot of work. You can see how much went into it. So it's appreciated, but I'm glad that it can be reused in future years.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Kristen, I'm so glad that you came tonight where we have such a big audience to see all the fantastic work you and your team have done this year. Just seeing the kids, seeing Mrs. Perch teach, it brought a little tear to my eye, just kind of seeing that's so close to normal as it's been almost, even though they're remote. And I have a question that is not related to your presentation, so I apologize. You were here a few months ago with us, and you talked about what happened if kids were in quarantine. Since we're bringing more students back into the building, I've seen that question come up a few times. Can you answer that? What happens? I understood that you were working with the classroom teacher to help kids with kind of a at-home lesson. Is that
Yes,
true?
I'd be happy to share about that. That's when a student is home quarantining and they're not going to be able to be in their with their remote teacher. So it's a week they would be in school.
Right.
We have set up, it's called the GPS at home Google Classroom. So what happens is the principal will notify me if there's a student that is going to be out and connect me with their classroom teacher. I find out from the teacher what are the standards and activities and all the different things that they're going to be doing and covering in the next week. And they will share with me any resources that they have. And then I take that as a jumping off point and create a slide deck similar to the one that you saw today, except it's kind of beefed up because it's for a week. So it'll say like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it's there for the students to access. I also have them using Flipgrid because they know Flipgrid. So they use that at the end of the day to share their learning. Kids will either, hold up things that they did or retell the story. It depends on what was asked in the slide deck. And so the kids have that opportunity to continue learning what they're learning. If they were in school, and have a way to show what they were learning so that we can sort of keep tabs and see that, oh, that student did actually do the work and beyond just like the worksheets, not worksheets, but like if it's like on Jamboard, I might put a worksheet of like multiplication facts or something, and they'll do it on the Jamboard, but also for them to talk about it in the Flipgrid. It's like a little bit more of a connection there. And that's worked out great. There's also in that slide deck a place for parents to ask questions about the actual at-home learning at the end of every slide deck, depending on every grade level. And also parents have a ticket to leave at the end of the week to give me feedback about how did it go? Was the work too easy, too hard, just right? And that sort of thing. And that helps me, know if I'm on the right track. Obviously, there's all different types of students that need more support, students that, might be bored. And so we try to beef it up. Like if I, have a student that's really high and they just really blasted through the whole thing, I'll contact the teacher again and come up with something else that might be appropriate to keep that child learning for the week.
Wow. Thank you. So Kristen, I've seen you over the years take on many different roles, and I just want to take this time to say how much we appreciate you in this district. You and your team opened up a new school this year, and we're in March. It's not that long, 100 days, I think, this week. I'm blown away, and I'm so grateful for you. So thank you to your team. This is a phenomenal, and I loved your slide at the end sharing what we've learned, what's going to take with us in the future. I'll get off my soapbox, but I'm tired of hearing that this is a lost year or a wasted year when there is so much good that has happened and so much to bring forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the committee?
Laura, I'd like to echo your appreciation for what Kristen has done. I think she's really only scratched the surface of the ways in which she's helped teachers enhance learning. She's worked with teachers who have diligently studied almost a brand new way of teaching. And I know that Kristen has done a fantastic job of supporting them. And her support ranges far beyond teachers. She has worked with paras. She's been a right hand to the principals. I am never not blown away every week when I meet with Kristen. She has far surpassed any of our expectations. She was absolutely the right woman for the job. And I couldn't be more thrilled and proud of who she is and what she's done and the ways in which she's impacted student learning this year.
Thank you, Tracy. That means a lot. I appreciate it. I'm so glad I came tonight, guys.
I loved having you. I did have one more. It was a comment. But I loved the example you gave. I think it was with Mrs. Norton, who found a way to bring the hybrid learners and remote learners together. Just can see the creativity from the teachers all across the board. And I know this was just a little bit of what's going on. And even when you showed the synchronous or asynchronous learning, I was just pictured worksheets or whatever it was. And you can see it's interactive. It's just like if you're in school, you're not always, sometimes you're just sitting at your desk quietly working. So just a really great job.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from anybody? Amy, any questions from the audience? Okay. Just a reminder that we don't take comments at this time. And we'll do our best. We have a large audience tonight. We're not obviously going to get through every question, and we'll assess as we go. So nothing else from the committee? All right. Well, Kristen, we'll let you leave on a high note then. So
thank you.
Thank you so much, and keep it up. And please share our appreciation to the rest of the team.
I will. I think some more are watching. So thank you.
I hope so. Well, thank you to those that are watching.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next on our agenda was going to be the 2021 calendar. Jay, we're going to pass over that tonight. Jay, do you want to address that?
Yep. So I was planning to ask the committee to vote on some changes or calendar revisions tonight. Today, DESE reframed time on learning expectations that came out at, as you mentioned, Laura, like 2:00. So we want to check with DESE and make sure that what we're planning to modify in terms of the calendar still meets their requirements. So we will try to do it tomorrow, certainly this week. And depending on that finding, I'll tweak as needed and present those changes on the 23rd, rather than make changes tonight and then do it again the 23rd.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. And no changes were going to happen between now and the 23rd for any parents that were making any plans or anything, right?
So it was looking, the recommendation would have been, it wouldn't have had any impact until the very end of April. So we wouldn't do anything earlier. If anything, in 2 weeks, I'll probably push it back if needed.
Great. Okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to pass it over to you. I have a feeling many people are interested in what you're going to say.
All right.
No pressure. Do you have any videos of children singing?
No, I've almost, well, no, I don't.
No. Okay. All right.
All right. Okay. So this past Friday, the Board of Education took a vote, and they came out with the news that K-5 statewide, K-5 students would be expected to return to schools full-time by April 5th. Since Friday, we had already, as I've mentioned at many meetings, we've been informally and kind of behind the scenes, we could put 2 and 2 together and see that eventually the state was going to most likely make this move. It all happened a lot more quickly than we expected, but we're at least moving along in that process. So we are going to have K-6 students return. Our 6th graders are part of North Street Elementary and Millbury Street Elementary. It just makes sense to do it that way. So we were working on that planning, obviously, since last Friday, all in. And this afternoon, DESE announced phase 2, and that is to have middle school, in our case, 7th and 8th grade, return full-time by April 28th. I'll put the actual wording up in just a second. And then they also mentioned in that same memo that the third and final phase would be the return of 9 through 12 to full-time in-person. They did not set a date for that. They did say, obviously, to plan on it, start working on the plans right now, in that the date would be shared publicly in April. So I'm going to guess in a couple of weeks, they're going to put out the date. It would not surprise me if it was early to mid-May, maybe at the latest. They did, well, I'll talk through it. So most of this, I did make some changes since the news came out, but I was obviously prepared to really focus on that move K6. So let's focus on that for just a second. We're going to have a two-phase approach to this. We're going to bring second and third grade back on March 29th. That gives us 5 days to get them in place, work on cafeteria, moving around the building, all of those things that we have to do. That next week, April 5th, we bring back grades 4, 5, and 6. We will have 3 feet, and this goes statewide, 3 feet of distancing. When prior to this, we were 3 to 6 feet, but we tried to err on, say, 4 to 6 generally. We're going to be down to 3. If we can make that work and have more space, we'll obviously take advantage of that. But 3 is going to be kind of that standard number that we use. They are mandating that we're going to keep the 6 feet while eating and while students are taking mask breaks. Today, North Street and Millbury Street principals put out a parent survey. And in that survey, asked parents if they wanted to stay in RLA. So RLA is going to be provided at the elementary level, at the middle level, and I am almost positive at the high school level for the remainder of the year. So we obviously need to know if people in RLA have any intention of coming back, and we need to know who they are, what grade level, etc. And it also focused on busing. So maybe it was 3 weeks ago, it feels like ages ago, but preceding all of this, the state released new transportation guidelines. And with those guidelines, they essentially removed all capacity limits on the buses and the physical distancing requirement on the buses. So students will still have masks on, the windows will be partially open for ventilation, but we're back to 2 students at a seat, kind of busing as it was prior to COVID. So obviously we need to know if people are planning to take the bus. The elementary principals, Steve Wiltshire and Joanne Stockland, are going to hold joint community meetings via Zoom. I believe that's next Monday, 1 session during the day and 1 session in the evening. I think it's important to realize that while there's a ton of planning, it's almost summer part 2 is what it feels like now. Most of what we do and that students have experienced in hybrid is going to remain in place. Obviously, the distance goes down. We're going to have to change some schedules and some lunches. So there's going to be changes for sure, but it's not as if a student in hybrid is going to return to the full in-person day. And aside from having less space and having more students, it's going to look and feel like it has in terms of the masks, in terms of procedures, how we move around the building, etc. We will maintain free lunches for the remainder of the year. That's something we certainly want students to take advantage of. And as I touched on, we are going to have to make some staffing moves. We're going to obviously bring hybrid staff back into the building, open up more classes to be in person. We're moving a lot of furniture. We're doing an awful lot in a relatively short amount of time. But our goal is to keep the schedule, keep it as consistent as we can, to have students with teachers that they are familiar with and they've had, be it in the hybrid version or in person already. Really everything that we went through at the K1 level at a kind of a bigger scale with a smaller or shorter timeline is what we're facing with 2.6. So this is what came out today. It's on, I will be resetting the COVID website. We'll be working on that tomorrow. I think we can probably get most of it done, and basically framing it as reopening plan 2, where 90+% is probably going to be the same, but the pieces and the new documentation, what have you, will be in that on that new website. So this came out today. It was packaged with some other materials from DESE. It's on the DESE desktop. It's open to the public. It's a little hard to find. I'll make it very easy for you to find. So obviously middle school, I want to stress that the way this was phrased made a lot of people think that RLA, for us, what we call it, that remote learning academy, would be off the table. That is absolutely not the case. That will be in place for the remainder of the year. So we have to make this shift at the latest by April 28th. Obviously, we've only had 5 hours to deal with it. We haven't talked about timeline, etc. So that's middle school, and then what I said about the high school, you can see it below. So I think it's clear that the intention is to fairly quickly move on the high school piece. Both of middle school and high school are going to be a challenge, no question about it. Not knowing that not having any idea this was coming today, myself, Tracy Kalo, and Kristen Gasper individually met with the high school administration, and then later in the day met with the middle school administration, just thinking ahead, knowing that this is probably coming. We met for about an hour with each school and just tried to start working through the problem and the challenges that we're going to face. They also put out on Friday a change with Mcas. So they pushed 3, 4, and 5. They're going to test. It's going to be May 10th to June 11th. Again, back Friday, we didn't know about middle school or necessarily the impending high school change. So they said 6, 7, and 8 are to be determined, and there was no mention of secondary. I believe both are going to happen. And obviously they don't have too much flexibility with that schedule, in that most districts are going to are going to be in school till mid to late June. So it's going to be relatively early May through mid-June, most likely. And the way it stands now, I get this question a few times a day. Students in the Remote Learning Academy, according to the state, they are not going to have the option to take Mcas at home. They can certainly opt out. Any parent has the right to do so. But short of that, the expectation is going to be for students to take the test in school. So that was going to be challenging even with hybrid. So now that we can anticipate, and most likely at the high school, that we're going to have the great majority of students back in school, that's going to be a whole nother challenge for us to figure out. I would think we'd get more guidance on Mcas on the schedule and that RLA component fairly soon. And then lastly, obviously, I think most people know this, K-12 employees now have access to vaccinations. A lot of our staff, just in conversation, have brought up that they've already set up appointments and or had their first shot. So that's very positive. Oh, that's all I have. So I can take any questions you have on any of that.
All right. Thank you, Jay. I will take questions. I have to scroll, or you can, I see Amy first because she's on my screen. So I will get to everybody. Amy, go ahead.
Thanks, Jay. I wondered if you could speak to a little more detail about the types of challenges that we face, if they're the same or different at the middle school versus the high school. Is it all basically, it's all bad? But can you be specific?
No, it's definitely not all, it's not all bad. And the changes will differ a little bit from town to town, and I can speak to that. at the elementary level, we generally, in a very general sense, we have our smallest class sizes in kindergarten, and they slowly creep up. In a normal year, I think that would make sense. We still pride ourselves on having fairly healthy high school class sizes, but you could see a class size of 25 at the high school level, and do we wish it was maybe a little smaller? Sure, but we're not ever gonna, or we have never had 25 kindergarten kids. So those smaller class sizes obviously are conducive to all of this. Once we have the larger class sizes, as we move up, we run into problems or challenges with space. Having all of these changes, even in the summer, I wouldn't want to do the summer again. This brings a new wrinkle in that April, May, that doesn't match up naturally with obviously a semester change. So kids are locked into courses. So we can't, and we don't have the flexibility that you would have with grade 3. We don't want to have the kid change, whoever the third grader is. We don't want him or her to necessarily, it's not optimal to change teacher. But I think most people and most students can figure that out. Like, we can make that work, and we have made that work with K and 1. We can't do that with our AP courses. At the high school level, it's just so different, and every kid's schedule is different. So you multiply that with 900 students, figure 750 coming back. That's a lot of complexity. I mentioned space. Space for us is going to be more challenging at the high school. It's a bigger building, but you have more students. And that's going to differ from town to town. This afternoon, I was talking on the phone with the Westboro superintendent. We were just kind of brainstorming different ideas. Her biggest challenge is at the middle school, space-wise. They were already kind of crowded, and now with distancing and everything else, middle school is her big challenge. I think ours is going to be most significant at the high school level. There's no doubt about that. You'd want to have, at any level, I want to be able to provide for that family or that student who's in a given grade, if the return, for whatever reason, be it worry about the distancing, it could be nervousness, it could be a real existing health concern, whatever. I want them to have the ability and the option to go to RLA. That will be a challenge, making everything you just saw from Kristen Perrone, making that work if we have a significant influx of students. But I want that safe landing spot. At the high school level, where students are already in semester-based courses, you can't in May just hop into a semester-based course that's already been running for months. It's not set up for that. So that's going to be a real challenge for us. And obviously it's still early in the game, and we'll figure it out, but those are some of the big challenges for sure.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Jen.
you.
I have a question. Have you started to hear from teachers that may not feel comfortable or are unable to, for health reasons or something, to participate back in person?
Kristen's done a fantastic job throughout. It wasn't like it just started today. She's in constant communication with teachers who have brought up or presented any kind of health concerns that have necessitated those individuals doing remote learning academy. I think we've done a fantastic job accommodating those individuals. I think there's a general, I know in Grafton, and I'm assuming statewide, a general nervousness on the part of teachers, by and large, who don't have existing health issues that would preclude them from being in person. But like K1, there was still, of course, nervousness, et cetera, but we were on our own timetable. It preceded the mandates. We were able to communicate. We were able to get more feedback. It's just a different ballgame when you're looking at mandates and set dates. And there's just a lot going on. We were focused entirely on making 2-6 that return as successful as possible, and we still will. But now on the top of that, we've got the middle school challenges to work through at the same time. And I'm going to guess in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the high school on top of it. It's a lot to plan at once and coordinate. So I think there's a normal nervousness about, how are we going to do it with 3 feet when it was so challenging with 3 to 6.
Yeah, because I think that's where I'm more concerned with that 3 feet number, especially at the high school where the classrooms are so much bigger. So, I mean, I'm sure you'll keep us updated well, you always do. So, you have a lot to think through, and I'm curious to see how this all gets played out.
Yeah, me too. I've been trying to stress, like, we own the mandate now. It's put upon us, and it's our job to do our very best. I think some people think that we have the option kind of not to do it, and that's just not the case. So I'm not particularly. I think I can speak for the entire leadership team that we are focused on how do we move forward, as opposed to, I wish we had more time. I wish there was more space. Like that's all legitimate, but we've got a finite amount of time to prepare as best we can for what's been, put upon us in terms of a mandate.
Liz.
Yeah, so I won't echo my anxiety about the spacing again, but I'm anxious to see how that's all going to work. And the other thing is, now that middle school has to go back, I know they have so many lunch periods, and some of the kids are starting to eat lunch at 10 o'clock to accommodate the spacing requirements. So my hat's off to everyone who's trying to figure this out, because I know it's a monumental task, and I wish we didn't have to do it at this point. But like you said, it is a mandate. It's not our choice. So I know everyone will figure it out, and because everyone's been so amazing so far, and we'll figure it out, and everyone will be safe, and it'll be good in the end. And I wanted just for everyone watching, I think I had the same confusion that a lot of people did when I first read the announcement, because they've, I know everyone said all along, RLA is still going to be an option. RLA is still going to be an option. I think that the miscommunication comes when the state is saying the remote option is not going to count if that's what the only thing the schools are offering, that parents can opt out of in-person learning, but they have to offer it. And I think that's where the communication kind of fell down. So I hope everyone watching, and I hope people getting this message understand that and hear the message that we've repeated a couple of times tonight, that you will still have the option to do the RLA program. And then I guess this isn't really a question, but just one thing I just don't understand is how the bus limit. I mean, we have to lift the bus limitation, but the idea that we can have 2 students per seat on the bus, but then when they get into school, they have to be 3 feet apart. And that kind of, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But Madam Chair, I think Amy maybe that.
Are you answering Liz's question, Amy, or did you want an answer? Are you asking a question?
I had a thought. Well, I had a thought on that as to why that's allowed, because it says in the bus guidance, the windows have to be open.
Mm-hmm.
In school buildings, a lot of schools, you can't open the windows at all. And that's part of that new LEED certification, green building stuff. A lot of school buildings, the windows do not open, but the buses have to be open. So I think that's kind of what they're thinking, that's going to it's like being outside. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think that's the thinking on it. And they haven't proved that anybody has gotten COVID by riding a bus yet. So
True. I mean, I think if that's the case, then we should, we have, I know, and most of our classrooms, we still have windows open. I know, because my son wears his coat all day in the middle school because he's freezing, but I like having the windows open, so that's good. But but we can't do it. That's neither here nor there. I guess it's just trying to understand where they're coming from. So thank you, Amy. But nothing we can change. Okay, so here's my one question after all that commentary. Once parents answer all of the surveys and decide RLA versus in person, are we going to require that they stick with that for the rest of the year like we did a couple of weeks ago, or tried to do a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, I would say yes for the most part. We always are going to have individual circumstances that change, and I want to do our very best when we can do it to meet the needs of families or students that change. But I think we've done that consistently, and I think we've done well by students and parents.
All right. Thank you.
There was one other challenge that it kind of connects with what Liz, you were talking about, where it doesn't kind of add up and make sense. A potential challenge, well, it's going to be a challenge for us, is going to be that unless something changes, and assuming we still have cases, even a fairly low level of positive cases, with the 3 feet, so DESE is mandating the 3 feet of distance. Department of Public Health, which oversees our close contacts, they go off of CDC guidance. So they're at 6 feet for close contacts. So we're going to be 3 feet apart, but have the definition of 6 feet. So it would be the same as up to this point this year, if we had, let's say, 6 feet of distancing, but close contacts were 12 feet. So we're going to see a significant increase in the number of close contacts per case, unless something changes. And I haven't heard, I've asked a few people in the medical community, and they completely understand it, and they understand it, but they don't believe there's going to be a change unless CDC changes pretty significantly.
So Jay, with that being said, so we heard from Kristen today for elementary school, but in middle school, it was easier to pop into the remote classes when you were hybrid with the middle school and the way the high school is doing, I think. So how do we handle kids who are, do we know yet? No, but we'll work it out.
And we could, at times, the way it's set up now, like at the high school, so many of the classrooms are live streaming.
Yeah.
Now obviously with all the students back, I wouldn't expect that to be maintained for no audience. So right. That's on the long list of challenges for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Sorry, Rahul, I called you out, but I just hadn't heard from you yet. So, okay. So I have a couple questions. First of all, I think, you brought back the summer, and I think we are feeling those same kind of feelings of anxiety and concerns that we had in the summer. I'll tell you, at least on my own, by the time we were in October, mid-October, most of my concerns had kind of been gone. And I'm feeling that. I trust this administration. I think a lot of what we see online and we're hearing is that other districts have done it very differently than we are. We're, as I continue to say, ahead of so many districts on how we've handled this from A to Z. So I think we're lucky, and I think we'll have challenges. And again, we're going to ask people to be flexible. And but I have every expectation that it's going to be okay, and even better than okay. So I'm assuming we're going to keep the same levels of cleanliness and sanitation with the bus runs, right? We'll clear between runs. We'll do the same sanitizing, Jay?
Correct.
And then the schools, the same sort of sanitize, nothing in that cases will change, correct?
Correct.
All right. Good. Well, I know that more information is going to come, so I don't have any more questions at this time, Amy. I see a few I don't know if you're able to talk. If not, I can take care of it.
I'm here. I've got all the questions lined up and ready to go.
All right. Well, then, let's
So
take
just
it
as
to
a
you.
reminder-
I don't want to, sorry, Amy, any individual child questions or something that sounds like that, I would ask that we don't discuss tonight and we direct them to the appropriate people that can help with that. So I trust you to use your judgment, but if you need help, let us know.
And just as a reminder, we have a couple people that asked more than one question that might have missed that announcement at the top of the meeting, that it's one question per person tonight, just because we have a lot of things we've got to take care of tonight. So the first question is from Hina Crouch. She asks, with RLA staying in place, will our children stay with their current RLA teacher?
I think we can assume that. Don't take that as, Jay said, and it's locked in stone, but that would be the intention.
This is a question from Leslie St. Jean. Has DESE or the CDC released any additional guidance on teachers or students having reactions to the vaccine that mimic the symptoms of COVID, if there's any quarantine or COVID test requirement? I'll say I haven't seen anything.
Oh.
I keep looking.
Yeah, I looked this morning. I didn't see anything either.
Okay. Done. Christy Puglio, sorry if I mangled your last name. From a mental health standpoint, will students benefit from returning to in-person school with approximately 1 month of school left when they have adjusted to hybrid?
Amy, I feel like that's a DESE question. We discussed that there's not really I think we'll do our best with our mental health professionals, and we're going to work with kids who come back with anxiety and try to help them through it. But you have to do what's best for your child, and we'll try to help you, would be my answer.
I think that's a perfect answer. Are there penalties for, this is from Melissa Graves, are there penalties for schools if you don't meet the date? Or
Yeah.
Can you talk about what the penalties are there, Jay?
Sure. They prorate, so you get reduced Chapter 70 funding. So for us, ballpark, it's $11 million. So they'll take that, divide it by 180, and for every day you're late, you lose that percentage of Chapter 70. So yeah, we can't be late, put it that way.
Thank you. I didn't realize it was that straightforward, but thanks for that.
Yeah.
Kathy asks, how does an RLA parent request at-home Mcas testing? I feel like you can't.
Right now, it's not available. Like, the state so far has said there is no at-home. A parent could just opt out of Mcas if they chose for whatever reason. That's not a new thing. That aside, we have to do whatever the state requires. As it stands today, we would have to schedule time for RLA students to enter the building, take Mcas.
Okay. Jennifer Jefferson is asking, with the added classrooms to accommodate the students coming back, will there be added support staff?
Okay, the support staff is dependent on the student needs in the IEP. So it would all be dependent on the students in the classroom.
Ruth Funk asks, are we still having COVID positive cases? We used to get an update from Jay on a daily basis. Is it because we are doing better or just not reporting?
Nope. It just, in the millions of things that go out, I'm sure this was just missed. A few weeks ago, we transitioned from the daily or almost daily email to a weekly email that I put out every Friday. It runs Friday to Friday. And then we have that dashboard that's accessible through the website, and that's updated daily. And we are still having cases.
Renee McAvoy is asking if there's any chance that we will move to pool testing.
Yeah, maybe. It's really expensive. When we looked at it initially, I think it was $326,000 from whenever the date was it was originally early April to the end of the school year. The state makes it kind of sounds like a new, cell phone provider where they say the first few weeks they'll cover, and then the rest of the year the school covers. That's not only the cost of the testing on a weekly basis, but you have to hire a team of people. It's not on top of the work our nurses are already doing. You have to hire a team of people to administer, drive the tests to go get tested. They have to coordinate everything. It was conservatively over 300,000 that we don't have. We do expect to get more monies through that $1.9 trillion stimulus package. But we haven't received any monies. That hasn't been defined. Given what we have now through COVID funding, we have enough to pay for the staffing, and we've obviously purchased PPE and tech to get us through June of this year. We don't have any extra. Those districts that had extra, maybe they, were simply better funded and had more monies to go to. Some of them had enough money even without COVID funds to do the pooled testing, but we just don't have an additional 300,000 at this point to use for that.
Jay asks, you're putting your own questions in? Jay asks, for
The
students
easy one, right?
learning full-time in person, what are the quarantine requirements if you travel out of state for spring break? And I'm going to answer this one that it'll be on the COVID website. And we don't have to worry about trying to outline all that. And that'll get updated.
Yeah, that was actually mentioned again today. So they're going to be real clear about it, because obviously the 28th, so the absolute last day that you can bring middle school back, follows vacation week. So I know the state obviously could see that coming, and I didn't really go through the new document. I don't know how different it is, but that will be up on the website tomorrow.
Can you speak to outdoor class opportunities with the nicer weather coming?
Yeah, generally it always sounds better than it is. We want to, obviously, if the weather's good, we're going to get outside as much as we possibly can. We have there was a plan today about putting the tents back up. Like, obviously, once we can do that, we're going to. We had a few additional tents come in since we took them down in the fall. So it works. The tents are good. We've added access points outside in a number of the buildings. We have a little more connectivity. We're going to use them. I'm sure we'll make it work well, but we don't necessarily always have power out there. It's not, I think some people envision like the exact classroom being replicated on a massive scale outside. That probably won't happen, but we're going to get outside as much as we possibly can. No question.
3 more. Will new children moving into RLA pose a classroom-sized challenge to already established RLA classes? That's from Wendy Carlson.
Yeah, I'm definitely dedicated and have been. I know we are as a district into like maintaining the, I don't know, sanctity sounds a little too highbrow, but you get the idea of RLA. Like, I don't think we've let that fall off since day one. I don't intend to let it fall off between now and the end of the year. If we did have a big shift to RLA, we'd obviously have to move staffing accordingly, so that we keep it the high quality product that it is. We could see a shift. We thought we were having the same conversation when we did the K-1 move, and we only literally just had a couple of kids shift. So it could happen, but so far we're not getting the sense that it will.
Amy, I keep seeing more questions being added. I'd like to just wrap up shortly.
Yeah, no, I'm going to do the last one that came in. When I said there were 3 more, this is the last one now.
Okay.
The buses, sometimes the kids are sitting on the bus for 20 minutes before they can go in. With this new mandate, can the kids be allowed to go into the school early?
Oh, oldie but a goodie. That's
Yeah.
a pre-pandemic
That's
question.
that's always a
So,
good one. You can get in the school, but then what?
yeah.
That's kind of the problem. I'll work with, I mean, it's something that is as old as time. We haven't had to deal with it this year because we have so few kids riding most of the buses. I'll be working with AA. I reached out and talked to them today. We didn't talk about that topic, but I can address that with them. And then
Right.
I just wanted to add, anybody, I don't know how many, I don't have the questions up, but people can always email me. I'm going to get back pretty quickly to everybody. There's also the GPS Facebook page where I'm happy to answer questions that come up there. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just going to reiterate that. We're not trying to shut down anybody's questions. We just, we're already, I think, a lot behind on our agenda, and we still have some items to get to. So a lot, we'll keep communicating the best we can. We'll work through this together just as we've had. I'll just say for myself, I'm very grateful to our community this year, especially in how we've all worked together, and we'll continue to do our best to answer questions. And when you post on Facebook, we do get to them, so have patience. You don't have to jump in and try to answer for something if you don't know the answer. We'll get to it. It's just we're not always as quick as others, but we're here, and we'll continue to try to answer questions the best we can. And we're going to work, like I said at the top, we have the team. I wouldn't want any other team leading us through it. So thanks to everybody for the flexibility. And here we go, the next phase. All right, and I'm going to move to school choice. Okay. Oh, and I'm sorry, I did want to ask Annabelle and James, did you guys have any questions? I figured you'd raise your hands, but as students, your voice is super important.
I don't have any questions, no. Thank you.
All right, I figured you'd ask, but.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Thank you for asking that.
Okay. Yeah, always feel free to raise your hand. All right, Jay, I'm sorry.
All right.
You were so quick. You were right there.
Yeah, I tried.
I know you were good. It's back
All
on.
right, I'll just give you the quick overview. School choice is always confuses people. It's a state program, and it basically allows a district that participates in the program to open up seats every year to bring in students from other communities to be a part of the Grafton Public Schools. If a student comes in, say it's grade 3, the majority come in kindergarten, I'll explain that. But say a student comes into the Grafton Public Schools through choice in grade 3, they are with us all the way until graduation. Like, they don't have to reapply every year. Even if a school committee, we took on a 3rd grader, by the time they're a 6th grader, we decided not to have school choice for whatever reason. That student is still with us through graduation. And most of the kids stay with us. The biggest movement we've historically seen has actually been students who are with us through school choice, and then that family moves to Grafton. So obviously once they move to Grafton, they're not in the school choice program anymore. So we offer seats per grade level based on economy of scale. The whole idea and the key to making this work is by not bringing in too many kids. So ballpark, we aim for usually around 10 kids. Rule of thumb for us has been about 10 kids per grade level. So if kids move out, they go to private school, they move to Grafton physically. If a seat opens up, we're able to offer those seats. This program's been incredibly popular. We have a waiting list at every single grade level. We get calls every single day about school choice. But again, the key is that economy of scale. There are districts that it's such a great generator of revenue that in tough times, it's very appealing to just open up school choice and take in too many kids. exceed that economy of scale, you have to hire more teachers, you have to hire additional staff to meet that need. We simply want to take advantage of margins that we have. And we're obviously, we've had it for 7 years. We have it, it's built into what we do on a day-to-day basis. Generates a tremendous amount of revenue, very, very low cost. The only costs for us are around materials, and those are minimal. You're talking at the high school level. We've got to invest in more iPads to meet the needs of our school choice kids. We bring in on average over $6,000 per student. The foundational number is $5,000, but for any kind of special education costs or English language learner costs, any individualized needs, we receive additional monies. So the average turns out to be like $6,500 per student, again, at no cost or very low cost. Incredibly beneficial. We've brought in over $3 million since we've started this program. It's just last year, I think it was $726,000 into the district. We use that. We know it's something that we can count on, and we use that in part to offset what would be your typical budget costs. So that's $3 million that would have come out of taxes. It's been a tremendous difference maker for us, no question about it. So this is what we have in 2021. We haven't had anybody leave due to COVID yet. Many districts saw almost a mass exodus. We didn't, that I know of, lose a single student over the past year. So we range from 7 kids up to 13 in grade 8 this year, for a total of 123 students. And again, over 700,000 in revenue just this year. So that's fantastic for us. So when those kindergartners next year go to 1st grade, we could, I'm not sure what the number will be, but we would fill in some kindergartners depending on how it plays out. Let's see if I have one more slide here. Depending on how it plays out in terms of students, if they do leave the district, if just how our enrollment is looking for the fall, we could have additional seats in 1st grade through 12th grade. I mentioned at the last meeting that we were reaching out to all homeschool families regarding their intentions for 21-22. We've probably received 50% of responses back, but all indications are that we're going to go back to what is our normal when we have typically 20, 22 homeschool students, and the other students, we have about 70 on top of that. Or I'm sorry, it was 59 on top of our usual 20 that were homeschooling this year. So far, almost all of them are planning to return next year. So we could end up, once we get them all back, we could have a few additional spaces left if somebody's going to commit to homeschool. So if approved tonight, and I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, the school committee is simply voting annually to remain open to school choice for the coming 2021-22 year or not. It's one or the other. The school committee, while I'm going to keep you abreast and updated, the school committee does not set the number of kids in the different grade levels, et cetera. It's just fundamentally it's open or closed. So if approved, the applications go online tomorrow morning. Everybody interested has talked to us or emailed us about this, and they know, go to the website tomorrow. That application window is open through March 26th, I believe. Those come in, and then in early to mid-April, we hold a lottery for the available seats, whatever they are. And I can take any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Jay. Any questions from the committee? Jen.
Hi, Jay. I asked this, I think, last year, and I'll ask it again. When we opened up school choice to kindergarten, we weren't sure what was going to happen with the outcome. Do you still feel that's in our best interest to keep it open for kindergarten?
Yes, I do. I don't know how many, almost worst case scenario, and the downside is obviously The earlier we do it is better for those who are applying to have the peace of mind. They know where their child is going next year in April. That's great. Given all the variables going on, it could be mid to late April, and it might be a smaller number. It might not be 10 kids. It might be 3 kids. And then we open up more seats once we give it more time. Like last year, I forget the exact number. Let's say we opened 5 seats initially for kindergarten, and then in early August. So we do the 5 seats. Everybody else goes on a prioritized waiting list with a given number. So you didn't get in, but you know you're number 2 for kindergarten. We reach out in August when we have a more firm understanding of what enrollment looks like in class sizes, make that decision in partnership with the principals that, yeah, we can take on 2 more kids easily. And Lynn Leofanti calls the first 2 people. If they're not interested or it's too late for them, we just work down the line and fill those spots. So we did that last year and it worked out really well for us. So I would suggest we do the same thing.
All right, great. Thank you.
Rahul?
Jay, the money coming from this program, school choice, does it get used only for the school budget or can the town use it also?
No, it just used, it's simply for the school department.
Awesome. Okay, great. And one more quick one. Is there a plan to increase the number of seats at all?
Not right now. Right now, that average, like in normal times, just for a second, take out all the COVID-related strangeness, we would most likely put forth, fill those 10 spots. That 10 number, it could be 9, it could be 11, but 10 has served us exceedingly well. Where we bring in, it's so easy to get greedy and, increase to 20 or something, but then you're looking at large class sizes. You have a few kids move in, not through school choice, and you have to hire a teacher. That staying with that economy of scale has been essential, and we've never wavered from that, and it served us very well.
Thank you.
Amy, did I see your hand? I did. Amy.
So I got a question from a parent, and I just want to run it by you. It's straight up lottery, regardless of whether the parent already has children school choiced into the district, correct?
No. It's like the height of gray. I forget the actual term, but it's hard to believe that it's in there. That the student with a sibling, I think it's can be provided preference. And there's no definition of that. There's nothing in there. So take that and figure out what it means. But we don't do it automatically if you have a sibling either.
Okay.
It's a big challenge, and it's not something I'm making up. That's right out of the legislation. It couldn't be more gray.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, I have a quick question for you. It's probably not quick. You reached out to all the homeschool families. What about kids that left the district to go to private school for the year? And I don't think it's a large amount, but I know there are some. Have we reached out to them to see if they're planning to return?
Yeah, we're in the process of doing that. When somebody unenrolls, it's just not as well. Like we had a spreadsheet for homeschool that's just a piece of cake to go through. So we are in the process of that. It's not a large number, and I'm not expecting a big increase, but we're in the process of at least surveying those parents.
And this is unrelated to school choice, and I'm going to ask it anyway. If they do want to return, do they reach out to their school, the school principal to do that?
Yep, that's fine. Or my office. They just need to re-register.
Okay, thanks. All right. Any other questions from the committee? All right. I will need a motion to recommend that the Grafton Public School open school choice for the 2021-2022 school year.
So
I
moved.
make a motion to have Grafton remain open to school choice for the 2021-2022 school year.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Thank you, Amy and Jen. All right, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Elizabeth Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is a discussion about Mcas. So 2 weeks ago, we received a couple of letters, and I did throw just a document in our drive regarding passing a resolution or supporting a resolution that we would ask the state to suspend Mcas. And there was some interest from the committee to discuss it. One, I wanted to clarify some of the things in the letter. It's from an activist group, which is Citizens for Public Schools. And earlier in the year, which I also threw up in the drive, and I'm going to share it if I can find it. The MASC, if you remember, at their conference, did a resolution about Mcas and high state testing, which we supported as a committee. And Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, that got passed, right?
Yes, I cast the vote on behalf of the committee.
Right. And then it went through, right, with the
It did
MASC.
pass.
So MASC has already, and Grafton has already supported this kind of resolution, I guess. So we have already done this once. The letter that was forwarded to us and the parents asking us to support is a separate thing, which is fine. We can certainly support it if it's something that the committee wants to do. I'm going to stop sharing now. What I think it's up to us if that's something we're going to do. I think it's a purely symbolic move at this point. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And we can certainly discuss the benefits of Mcas or not. And if it makes us feel good to do it or better and apply pressure, it does seem like the federal government has doubled down on it, which I was surprised about. And as Jay shared, we don't even have dates yet for the middle school and high school students. So I'll stop talking. I do have some thoughts about it, but I'll let you guys share any thoughts. And before I do that, I'm going to see if James and Annabelle want to head out. And I should have asked before we started this discussion. So Liz, I'll get back to you, but do you guys have any updates for us or thoughts, I guess, on Mcats? I got away from the time.
I've got no updates right now, but thank you.
Okay, thanks, James. Annabelle?
I don't think there's anything that I can think of either.
Oh, all right, good. Well, you're welcome to stay or go, but I think next we have some policy. Yeah, so thank you for joining us, and let us know if you hear anything on the cause of Grafton that we need to know about.
All right, thank you.
Thank you
Of
both.
course, thank you so much.
All right, sorry about that, Liz. Go ahead, you're up.
No, that was the right thing, of course, to let them talk first. Yeah, I agree. I think that this is something that I would love to see the school committee reaffirm our support of the MASC resolution that we affirmed and adopted, I guess, or were ready to vote for at the meeting on November 7th. I think what it would take would be just a communication of that reaffirmation and support for no high stakes testing in Massachusetts for the rest of the academic year. I know that there were, I was trying to follow how this proceeded in the legislature today. I think it started, it was considered, and then it just it just kind of dropped. Maybe Amy knows more about that, but I would be in favor of the committee putting together some sort of communication to our representatives, to the governor, to show our support for hopefully canceling Mcas this year. And I think that's about all we can do that I can think of at this point. And at least showing that solidarity with some of the other school districts around the state. I know there've been several that have done this, that have reaffirmed their support for canceling it. And who knows, maybe if there are more, maybe they'll get a little bit of political pressure and maybe we'll see a good outcome, but we don't know unless we try.
Thanks, Liz. Well said. Any Amy?
So I apologize. I was following that bill and I literally forgot. I was going to look it up before the meeting and I forgot. But yeah, it's pretty stalled at this point. I know that the Biden administration has told the states, as Laura said, that we have to do the testing. But that was before the Secretary of Education was installed just last week. I feel like we could see movement on that. I feel like if more pressure is brought to bear, I agree with Liz, we could see this change. I find it a bit hypocritical of DESE to be so focused on time on learning and getting students back into buildings for more time on learning and holding districts to these numbers and then mandating this testing. We won't be able to use the results to compare against prior years because the test is going to be different. So it's not going to tell us anything we don't already know, and we won't be able to compare it with previous years, and we won't be able to compare it with next year's. So I really question the purpose of this testing other than the government's telling us we have to do it. And I think it's unfair to put teachers and students through it when we're not going to get any good data. I'm all for making data-driven decisions, but what decisions are we going to make based on a brand new test, a shortened test of already stressed out children, of teachers who have had to adapt the curriculum for the time that they've had and the delivery mechanisms that they've had to use? And what are we going to do with that data? What is it going to tell us that we don't already know? That's my little speech. I think we should support whatever resolution or letter, or we could send our own letters, we can support something, but I think that we need to let the government know that, this is not education. This isn't what education's about.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to add to that or disagree? Rahul?
I don't disagree. I just wanted to echo the same feelings. This school year hasn't been easy for kids or the teachers at the same time. So I would support having no Mcas this year.
All right. Jen, do you have anything to add? I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
You are putting me on the spot.
I know.
No,
you can say I have nothing to add.
No, but it's more, I myself personally don't necessarily mind some sort of testing, but for me, I don't want to have a high stake test. That's what I would like our letter to represent. That's going to be nothing tied to graduation. That's like that mean anything like that high stake. That's kind of what I was more. That's what I'm more in support of or against, I guess.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm definitely in support of writing a resolution and sending that over to our state and I think federal representatives as well. My concern, well, I'm not a huge fan of high state testing. I think I trust our teachers to do assessments. We're going to have to do a lot of assessments when kids return in the fall, when they return. I mean, we're just going to have to, and teachers are going to figure out how to shift teaching and move ahead. And I really don't like the message that kids are falling behind educationally. That seems to be repeated over and over again. I think that we're entering a new world, and we're going to need to adjust what that world is and bring our kids with us. And I trust our teachers to do that. So, and I'm also really not in favor of bringing kids back, having them to adjust to the full-time schedule of being back into buildings, only to take a test in the warmer weather, which I know, I thought I saw that in one of the discussions, but maybe we're moving that. Anyway, I'm all for it. So my question is, do we have a volunteer to draft a letter? Liz,
I'll do
is your
that.
hand up to volunteer?
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Present next time.
Yeah, I think so. And if we want to move forward, I'm comfortable with you forwarding it to Jay, and we can forward any edits to it. If we want, we can take a vote. And I just want to correct that we're not voting to cancel Mcas. We don't have that power as a committee. I want to be clear about that. What we're doing is we're supporting a resolution, or we're adding our support as decision makers and educational leaders to just to see if they will cancel high stake testing. So that's what this is. I don't know if we really actually need to take a vote. So Liz.
Well, question that, so it'd be nice if we could get a consensus tonight, though, as far as what we're actually objecting to. If it's just the high stakes testing, if we're just, because it seemed like we got a little mix of opinion on the committee about whether it's, we're objecting to just high stakes, just in the high school when determining graduation requirements, or also at the elementary levels where it's taking away from time on learning, or not time on learning, but instruction, direct instruction. And that's where I lie. I don't think we should have any of it, because like Amy said, I think Laura touched on it too. I don't think it's the right time. I don't think it's the right year to take away from that. And what good are the results, really?
Yeah, I thought the resolution is already there. So I thought what we're voting on was, or not what we want is to just for this year, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumors that they could push it to the fall, and we could talk about it then. I'm against that as well. I do not want kids to return to school and have a test in October and then have another test in April or May. Like, I think it's just ridiculous. Kind of what Amy said about the data. So I brought back up the original resolution. But for me, I would be against Mcats in general for this year, and I would support a resolution in that, not just for graduation requirements. So Jenna, Amy, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Okay, no, it's fine. Yeah, I agree. And full disclosure, I have a member of the class of 22 who should have taken her 10th grade MCAS last year and has not, and does look like they're going to be doing it this year. I mean, they've said TBA, but what does that mean? DESE has said that there will be no penalties as a result of the MCAS, and any decision making that happens as a result of those results, those outcomes for schools. And I don't really understand all of it, but in terms of those high stakes, those won't happen this year. And they said that they're going to deal with the competency requirement in the coming weeks. So the competency requirement is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, that's the, we have a senior who's graduating in June that didn't pass the MCAS yet. Technically, they can't graduate without some intervention from the state. And that's what they'll be hopefully dealing with, is they'll be allowing those students to graduate. But that still leaves class of 22, 23 on the hook, and they haven't taken it yet. I think what we're talking about is this year, all kids, because they're not even in buildings yet, most of them. At least that should say most of them. They're not in buildings full time yet. And then to have to take these tests, in April and May, it's too soon. And I think they should just not do it at this point.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, so I think the majority of us are talking about a letter that is supporting not having Mcas this year. So that would be the direction I would give you to draft, Liz.
So what I'd like to do is draft that and present it to the committee, in draft form before next meeting, in anticipation of the meeting, and then we can vote on it, I think, at next meeting.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. So we'll get that on our next agenda. That leads us perfectly into future agenda and schedule planning. Also, I had a great conversation with our new town administrator, Mr. Broussard, last week. And that's okay, Amy. He actually asked if he could come to a meeting. So I'm going to invite him to our next meeting. And he said he'll clear it with the select board at their meeting, that he can come for the first 5 minutes or so. We won't keep him too long, and then he can hop on over to the Zoom. So he's looking forward to working with all of you and us. So I'm excited to bring him on. Amy.
So should I then draft an invitation?
It's okay. I had a personal invitation, so I'll send him a Zoom invite. And it was a good thought, but it's okay. We connected right away, and he seems really excited to meet with us. And I almost just threw him on tonight because they weren't meeting, but we had so much on our agenda. I didn't want to do that. So we'll do that coming up. Anything else that we need to get on to obviously we're going to have so much more information about getting kids back into the building full time. But anything else? Amy?
I just thought of this, which is why I didn't send it earlier. So tonight we heard about elementary RLA. Is there a chance that we could see what's going on with the middle school and high school RLA program? Is there a coordinator similar to Kristen for that, or no?
When we get to future agenda, it's already on there.
Yeah, I thought we had already put that on.
Or maybe we didn't add it. We've
I
already
think we-
scheduled it. What?
Yeah.
Tracy, do you remember the date? Is it 20? I'll look. When you guys are talking, I'll look.
I think
regardless, yes, Amy, we got it. We're on it.
It might be after April break. I might be wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. I'll put it on there now.
Okay, cool. All right, and we have 2 minute approvals.
Oh, yeah.
What were the dates? I saw the 2/9 one. What was the other one?
I thought there were 2. There might only be 1. I thought, looks like there's only 1 in there. So you were correct, Jen. I think we're behind 1, but
Okay.
We'll get it on for the next one. Thank you.
You're welcome. I make a motion to accept the minutes from February 9th, 2021 as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jen Conley.
Jen Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney.
Aye.
Rahul Rati.
All right, aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Next up, we have talk a little bit about the superintendent's salary for the 2021 year. So this is last year, technically. We're not talking about the future. As some may recall, suspended any kind of raises pre-override. So none of our admin were scheduled to get raises. Anybody that wasn't in a union, non-union, were not getting raises. If the override passed, then they did wind up getting a 2% raise. Some took 1 and 1 for the school year. Jay's raise was built into the budget, but as a committee, we held off and we didn't do it with the pandemic and everything that was going on. So tonight, I would like to propose that we grant Jay his 2% raise retroactive. As I mentioned, it has been built into our budget. He did get very high remarks on his last review, which was from the previous committee. And Jay, I'd like to apologize on behalf of the committee for not taking care of you sooner. We'll obviously have a full-blown review for you this year, but you continue to do fantastic work. You are a leader. Anybody can man a ship in calm seas, but you really have taken, I'm going to mess up that metaphor, but you have guided us through a storm, and I appreciate you very much. So that is on my behalf. Amy and I are on the negotiation committee for the superintendent, and I believe I'll pass it to her if she has any remarks first, and then we can open it up to the committee.
I totally agree with Laura's metaphor. I'm pretty sure she stole it from me because I used it earlier in the year. But you
has it on like a sign in his office. That is a common metaphor. Go ahead.
But even last year, thinking back to some of the challenges that we faced last year, when we didn't think the waters could get any more choppy than they were. You led us through that with a steady hand all the way. And it made me physically ill to not give you a raise at that time. I thought that was just awful. I spoke out against it. And it wasn't like we had a choice in the matter, but now we do. And I think it's time we correct it. And show you the money, as they say.
Well, that's just a 2% raise.
I'll take it.
Anybody else on the committee? Liz. Liz. Sorry. I did, yeah. I might have
hand up yet. You knew I was coming.
I could see you, and you light up when people take themselves off of mute. You light up on my screen.
You knew I was off mute, so I was coming. Okay. Yeah, I'll just say where I was and where I am on this. You know, I'm typically one who's not usually in favor of retroactive raises like this, but in this case, it was budgeted for last year and just not taken. My concern when I first heard that we were going to be talking about this was just sort of messaging about this and making sure that the school committee was consistent in its messaging about it. And then after reviewing the films of the meetings from last year, now the dogs are all talking to each other. So I am in favor of it.
All right, well, we do need to take a vote. Jen and Rahul, I don't know if you had anything to add, and you don't feel obligated. Like I said, and I just want to be clear for people at home, this is for last year. So we may have this discussion moving forward once we renegotiate everything. So I will take a motion, please.
I make a motion to give our superintendent 2% raise retroactive.
Motion made. Do I hear a second? Second from Amy Marr. All right, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Connolly.
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr, aye.
Elizabeth Spinney.
Aye.
Rahul T.
Rahul T, aye.
Laura Often, aye. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jay, for your patience with this and for the wonderful work that you do.
Thank you.
We really appreciate you. All right. We have a warrant.
We do. I just wanted to ask, did we skip over ECM project update on purpose?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was crossed out on my notes. So yes,
No,
but I didn't announce it.
I should have put that in my update yesterday. I was hoping that I did meet once with the new town administrator. He was terrific. I put that on hoping that we would have had a chance to meet about the project. So Anita and I are going to try to do that before the 23rd. But Anita's been great working with Train, keeping the ball moving forward. But we're obviously going to need town support if we're going to take it to the next step.
Okay.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I had a big cross out, so I just kind of skipped over it.
I move the committee accept the warrant number 37 dated March 11th, 2021 in the amount of $527,160.83.
Motion made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, this will be a roll call vote. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul T,
Aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you. And next, policy subcommittee met. I'm going to turn it over to Liz, and I'll jump in if needed, but I doubt I will be.
Share my screen.
And we had a new member of this policy subcommittee join us, Miss Tracy Kalo, who was wonderful. So Tracy, you'll see some of Tracy's comments, and she may jump in as well.
It was my pleasure.
It was very pleasurable.
I think it's the right one. I've got way too many screens up.
No, I know. And I even saw Amy's like post about what you could do with all your tabs.
All right, 1 second. Let me
Yeah, take your time. I'll just talk. No, I'm just kidding. I won't. I know it's after 9 too.
You get the option to share your screen, and you get all of the screen options, and they're very tiny, and my tired eyes are having trouble deciphering which one is which, but I have
There
not.
it is.
There you go. my chatting delayed things. Okay.
I love it.
So these are the policies we talked about at our last policy meeting. Some of these, as you'll see, we went through and we just decided they were fine, this being one of them. The school council's policy, I think
there was a deletion right at the end, Liz. Yeah.
There was one change, sorry. So this was just something regarding the school council meetings, something that has not been the practice, and we talked about it to decide whether or not it should be the practice, and it didn't make sense for that to happen. So we recommend deleting this line, that the superintendent would receive agendas and minutes of all school council meetings. That was a little much. So that was the only change to this policy. I'm scrolling really fast, so hopefully.
Yeah, nope, that was it.
Excuse me, that was the only change we had recommended to this policy.
So we can take this as a first reading, or we can take it as a revised as edited, or reviewed as edited, depending on if you guys have concerns. And we're talking about the school councils. It's the school advisory councils that take place in all of the schools. They're not forwarding their agendas and minutes to the superintendent at this time. And they don't need to. That's a principal level. Jen?
No, I just say I also don't think, we see the school improvement plan, which is ultimately what's shared with us. So I think that's fine enough.
Yeah. And actually, we'll get to this on the next policy, but these policies are so out of date. Prior to any of us on this committee, school committees used to have to approve school improvement plans. So I think these policies were built around that, and that legislation changed and took that away from school committees. So we don't have that. It's not under our purview anymore. So that's another reason, and you'll see that further on in the next policy. So I can take a motion to approve this as edited, or if somebody is really concerned and wants more time to think about it, we can take it as a first reading.
Can you move it up so I can see the letters?
Yep.
Can I ask a question before Jen makes a motion?
You sure can, Amy.
So do we use the terminology school councils because that's MASC language, or do the schools call them different things?
They call them school advisory councils, but MASC calls them a school council.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions, Rahul? You're the only one on my screen.
I think our unit here is more generic to cover any of those, any names.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept Section C, General School Administration, CE2, School Council's policy reviewed as edited.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Alrighty, aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries. Sorry, I was taking notes as I was doing it. Next up,
So next policy, CE2E, this is one that Laura was already referring to, that this was providing guidelines for the school improvement plan. Again, this is no longer submitted to the school committee for approval, so we recommend deleting this policy.
and it kind of falls under the superintendent, where the superintendent gives guidelines to the principals of what he or she or they want to see.
And we didn't feel there was any need to keep this under our guidance specifically, rather than keeping it at the discretion of the superintendent.
Amy? Is your hand up? Oh, you're good. I can't see all of a sudden. Oh my God, it's the 9 o'clock. Any other questions from the committee? Okay. Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to delete CE2E, School Council Improvement Plan Guidelines.
Second.
Motion been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Aye.
and Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. And now you're all on my screen too. It's awesome. Okay.
All right,
Liz.
next one, CH, policy implementation. This one, we just changed a little bit of the wording. I know we said we weren't going to do that, but this one I think has the wording changes are substantive rather than just grammatical. So we changed this from regulations to procedures to more accurately define what's being used to follow the policies that we establish. And then the last sentence of the second paragraph reworded just to clarify and make this more, like I said, to make it more clear in the language, that's all.
Any questions? All right. Can I have a motion? This we can take as a first reading, or we can take changes as edited too. It's up to you guys. Again, I don't think we're making any massive changes that we would want time to come back and think, but.
I make a motion to accept policy CH policy implementation reviewed as edited.
Second.
Motion been seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Aye.
Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, Liz.
All right, next, this one, CHA, Development of School District Procedures. This is one that we reviewed, but we're presenting it with no changes. Just as part of our requirements, we're to review all of these every 3 years in a cycle of review. So, so we're doing that, and want to see if Laura.
No, I just caught something that I would have, I don't know, I missed it. I would change the he to she to the they that we've been doing. But that's and I missed that in our meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not in edit mode, but you see what we're doing.
Yeah, but I feel like we would review it still as approved as reviewed. So I think that's okay. Any other questions? All right, I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to accept CHA development of school district procedures as reviewed.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Moore,
Amy Moore, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Aye.
and Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right. Last
All right.
one.
Last one, CHCA, approval of student parent handbooks. This one had a little more meat on it in terms of our changes. Basically, we compared this to the current Mass General law on this topic and found that it seemed as though the law had been updated since this was last updated. So we wanted to incorporate those changes, which include additional language that refers specifically to inclusion of bullying prevention and intervention plans in our handbooks. That's mandated by the state. And we thought that it would be good we wanted to make sure that that's included in our policy as well. And to also update some of the language to just make it more clear as far as the procedure for presenting and reviewing and approving the handbook each year, and the timing of that we discussed a bit. We had a lengthy discussion about whether the handbook should be reviewed each spring. And we left it at this. So if anyone has any questions about that, we can discuss that. But we went back and forth a few times on the specificity of the timing, and we came back to this. But so the references are made to the same references that the statute has as far as Mass General Law, Chapter 71, Section 37O, which requires that bullying prevention and intervention plan, which I know we have. We just wanted to incorporate that, make sure it's included in our policy. And making sure that's an O and not
a zero.
The rest of this is mostly, well, it all is quoted from the statute as well. So we didn't make any changes to that. Just let me know if you want me to scroll down to the rest of that.
Any questions, Amy?
I just have one question. This looks great. My one question has to do with 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph down. Further, the school committee requires written acknowledgement of receipt of the handbook by the recipient. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're not doing that.
Thought we were.
Well, I think it's how it's worded. I might ask Jay or Tracy to jump in here. The school district requires written acknowledgement. We don't get them. Like, I don't get 3,000 signatures, right?
Yeah,
that's a good point, Amy.
Well, my point actually, that's a different point than my point. That's an awful point. My point is, I don't think we're having parents sign anything anymore. There's no written acknowledgement anymore. There's nothing done on paper.
Well, it was electronic last year.
Digitally, so I guess that written could be
it's electronic.
Semantics, I think. But
when they sign it electronically, do they provide an electronic signature, or how is that done?
It's in Power School. It's a checkbox.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's an acknowledgement. We could take out the word written. That would be better with that.
This is how we do it in legal documents. I could say electronic acknowledgement counts as written. Something to that effect. I'll write it out so everyone can see it. But we'll bring it back for a second reading. So yeah, okay.
So that's a good point. But is it I think the school committee, I'm good with that. I take back my first comment. We require it. We don't have to get them. We don't have to receive. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come up with something better. So you want to bring this back for a second reading then?
I wanted to anyway, because we did a lot of changes. So this would be for our first reading tonight, and we'll bring it back in 2 weeks. So if there's no other questions, I can take a motion.
And make a motion to accept policy CHCA, approval of students' parent handbooks, as a first reading.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Connelly,
Jennifer Connelly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney,
Aye.
Rahul Rati,
Aye.
and Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. Great, thank you. Thank you, Liz. So we'll see that one again. And we're almost through C also. So that's exciting. Next up, we have some member reports. Does anybody have any? Jay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Sorry, you just muted yourself. And I saw that we're having the Grafton Self-Care Day coming up. Or Tracy, can anybody just give a brief update on that? I think it's this Friday. Or I can.
Yes, I can speak to it. Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services has put together 3 different presentations to support the health and wellness of staff, students, and parents respectively. So they are 3 separate Zoom webinars, and they will run at separate times on Friday.
Fantastic. Do people have to register in advance?
I don't believe they need to register. The link should have gone out. I should say the advertising brochure with the links on it should have been sent via principals for the past couple of weeks in their updates.
Yeah.
I can ask for principals to resend midweek if you think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think it's always helpful. I know Jay sent it in his update on Friday as well, and I have seen it in principals. And I think I posted it on my page as well, but it can never hurt because I think it's great. So I just wanted to say I think that's a terrific thing to offer.
Yeah, we want to do. It would be wise for us to recognize Sharon Buckley and Bob Wall and Mandy Lape, who work with me on our SEL team. Their efforts really came together to make that day work, and we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you to all of them. I think it's very exciting. Any other member reports? Okay. I didn't receive any correspondence. We don't have to go into executive session, so I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right. We'll have a roll call vote. Jennifer Connelly.
Jennifer Connelly, aye.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney.
Aye.
Rahul Rati.
All righty, aye.
And Laura Often, aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.